Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hack the Box Ottawa meetup. I'm your host, JF Provost, along with my co-host, Steve Bowers from the Blue Cyber team. Hey, Steve, how are you doing? Exciting times, right?
Definitely. Just happy to be here.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see exactly how things are going to go. This is a new style. This is a new way for us to be able to present contents to you guys. So I'm going to start a little bit by presenting myself. I'm the CEO of Malvik Security Incorporated. I'm also providing VCSO services to the federal government and also private sector. I teach ethical hacking, cybersecurity to universities such as Concordia University. And I have a bunch of experience as well in that space. I was for 11 years in Canadian Armed Forces, 7 years of teaching, and deployed to Afghanistan in 2010. I also have the OSCP certifications, and anything that you can think of for CompTIA A+ to CAS+, I have pretty much all of them. And so Steve, present yourself, please.
Yeah, hey, Steve Bowers. I'm the, CEO, principal consultant of Blue Team Cyber. I provide various security operations services as well as governance, risk, compliance, anything up to and including training and technical documentation. Been on and off, on again, off again instructor for Algonquin College since about 2011, and really happy to be part of something like this again and providing some educational material and getting to thwart some hackers.
Exactly. So I think I think you guys can realize that you have a wealth of knowledge here in front of you, that what we want to do is to share as much as possible with everyone, right? So if you have any questions, obviously we might not be able to answer them all, but we're going to do our best to do it as much as possible, right? So you got a terrific person here with Steve to be able to answer some of the blue stuff, and then I can help you out as well, answering your red team questions as far as we can, right? So before we move a little bit forward, I just want to show some stuff over here. You guys know that Hack the Box is very involved into like the community and so on, and you have the universities that are very important. So right now you have the University CTF 2023. Obviously, like it says university, but if you're part of a college, you can also take part of that. It's all free. There's up to $61,000 in prizes. So obviously, even though you don't win, you get the chance to be able to experiment the platform and see what it is and learn as well. There's tremendous amount of information you can get out of there. So that'd be great for sure. So I see some people saying hi. I got Matthews. I apologize if I screw up your name. Really happy to see you here. So hopefully you're going to enjoy every bit and pieces of what we're going to show over here today. So if you watch a little bit, or at least seen some of the posts that we've communicated with you guys, we talked about as well about purple. What purple actually means is like we do a combination of red and blue team, right? So since the introduction of the Certified Defensive Security Analyst, or the SOC analyst path, we decided that it was important right now to start talking about both of it. So not just the attacking side, but also show you what we can do on the blue team side, right? To be able to defend, prevent, and detect those potential attacks that could be arising. And the main goal is to be able to go and do security by design. Let's say, for example, if you're on the blue team side and you're trying to design an application, you understand those things. So I think it's going to be very, very important to be able to highlight those things. Sounds good. So perfect. So if don't have any questions for now, I think we're going to start kicking off with our awesome machine, which is called Precious, right? So Precious is not a complicated machine. It's not a complex one, but we want to try to show you a little bit the ins and outs without going too complicated right off the bat and move there. Sounds good. So we're going to see you a little bit later, Steve.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Great. So so I started my machine, right? It's super easy. And as you can see, probably it's very important to note is I'm not going to be using an actual VM that's part of my computer. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is anybody that has a machine don't have the capability to, I don't know, like install VMware Professional or something like that. I want to make sure that you understand that it's available. You can have what is called Boxe that you can just like click in, and then you have your machine, and then you can start hacking in. So you don't need to VPN, you don't need to do anything else. And if you have to visit some family and some friends, well, if you have a computer handy, you just need to log in, and as long as you're able to have a decent internet connection, similar to what Netflix would require you should be able to start streaming these things. So at this point, like any machines, if we start doing the hacking, like any machines, what we're going to start doing, if you allow me 1 second, I'll just set up my stuff so I'm not moving things around too much. So, okay, so good. So now, like any machines, as soon as we have our IP address and we have a machine that we need to start doing some investigation on it, trying to figure out how we're going to be able to get in and get our full hold, we need to do some enumeration. One of the best things we're going to start with is called Nmap, right? Nmap has a multitude of different flags, multitude of different options, right, that you can actually use to be able to go. And as we can see here, we have a bunch on the left side here. Okay, so I'm not going to describe all of them. I'm going to describe some that are important. But the main thing to keep in mind is all of those flags and all of that information is also included in the box. So let's come back here. At this point, what we have, okay, we have our machine. If we clear this up, we have our machine. Let's do an Nmap. Then we're going to, whoops, cyber. I don't know why you got that cyber there. Going to take my IP over here and then paste it there. Okay, so normally when we do Nmap and we enter the IP address, we're going to be scanning the top 1,000 ports. Okay, it's going to be fairly similar, fairly similar like this. We're just going to take a look at the port, and that's about it. When we're conducting an actual pen testing, not experience, but we're conducting actual pen testing, we want to be as quiet as possible. So there's multiple things we could do, and we can use the TACP, which is basically the port that we want. So now we could use port 22 and then port 80 to be able to scan, right? So obviously we'll do the same thing. Like I showed you earlier in the list under the -- help, there's a lot of different options that we can take a look from that, right? So those options could be to run scripts, go only for UDP, because for sure this one is only TCP that it starts with. So we can do that. One of the ones that I like to use, there's this one here where we're going to do the scripts. Okay, so TAC S and capital C, and then we can do also the TAC S capital V for versioning. So we're trying to figure it out what version we have behind that. Okay, so that's the part we can do. If somebody can check out as well, or maybe knows, if you put in the chats, if you know which one, like there's an option that you can do, like TAC something that would basically replace all of them, right? That could be interesting to know. If you know as well, share it in the chat. But for now, we have the TAC SV, TAC SC. We can also combine them if we wanted to, right? Like this. And what I'm saying is like there's a TAC and one letter that can replace both of them. So I'm going to do this here, okay? So basically what's happening now is it's going to run the default scripts that Nmap engine already has, and also would run the one for the versioning and try to understand what version we're dealing with, right? So at this point, what we can see from the machine is we have an open SSH 8.4. Okay, so that's interesting, but not enough interesting for me to say this is potentially an attacking point, right? Obviously, if we're running into a rabbit hole, we have no other ideas of what to do. We could take a look at it for sure. But for now, I would say this is not as important. If I keep moving down, I have the here I have the HTTP and Jinx 1.18.0, which is interesting, right? So that could be interesting. We could go take a look at it. But we see also that we have the precious.htb. Okay, so basically, if I do precious.htb, it's not going to work right away. So if I go here, start my there we go, and then I do precious.htb. We're going to see here it's not going to work. Obviously, it's going to bring me up to Google, or if I do HTTP precious. Oops. Not come. Those little things happens once in a while, and then let's remove the M over here, and I press enter. like we're not going to be able to get anything. So basically what we need to do is to do a sudo first, okay, nano, and then we're going to go and change the etc host file. Okay, so basically anytime that our machine is going to try to query a specific website, is going to go to that specific IP. So now we already had the IP copied. So I'm going to do paste over here in this location and then write down precious.hdb. Okay. And Control X to be able to exit is going to ask me if I want to save it. I'm going to press the Y button for yes, and then press enter because I want to save it directly on the host there. Okay. So we saved it. One thing that's super important to note, and I'm going to show you this, right? And sometimes you can get even more information with that is you press enter. Well, we're going to choose only port 80 at this point, and then do the TAC SCV. We're going to press enter again, and we're going to look if there's any changes. Sometimes that happens that there is a change between before we actually put that and the other one. Oh, now see, look. Previously, when we were taking a look at the actual information that we were getting NGIX 1.18.0. Okay, but we knew that that was the website. Now, if we go a little bit further down, we see because we added it into the host file, we're able to understand more information about it, right? Because it went to the actual website at this point. So if we just put the IP address, there was an issue, and now we're getting a lot more. And we also see the title, like convert web page to PDF. So now that's a lot of information we're getting, and that's a lot, like that's very interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this off just in case, press enter. And now we're brought up to a page which is convert web page to PDF. So Alexandre, I think you got the right one. Which is TAC A. I'm quite sure that's what it is. There's a TAC O. Hold on. Let's go take a look. There's a TAC O as well that's there. Help. And then we have TAC A for aggressive. I think that was aggressive. And O, OS detection. And we have the AAA. Where is it at? If I can find it real quick, that'd be great. Like they're not showing up right away. Maybe I should do some sort of a grep on it. Oh, 8. There we go. So yeah, TAC A. So enable. Yeah, that's the one. TAC A was right. That was the one. So we got enable OS detection, version detection, script scanning, and then trace route. So a lot of information can be done out of that. Do we want to do that during a pen testing session? Probably not, because you're going to do a lot of traffic. So you got to be careful on how you do your stuff. So. Yeah, good, perfect. So, okay, so now we have this this website that we just went through. Like we wrote on the hosts file, we wrote down the precious.htb, and then now we have convert web page to PDF. So we can try a couple of things. We could also go into inspecting the information in backend and trying to understand maybe a little bit more how the website is being done, because sometimes it can be very interesting to see. At this point, we don't see much out of this website, so it can be quite hard to go further. We could say, okay, we know we have on 127.0.0.1. Okay, we can even like probably try to do port 80 just to specify it and make sure. Maybe HTTP like that. There's multiple things we could do, but we know we have a website on it. So why not give it a try and see how it goes, right? And then probably see if there's any information that could arise out of that. So now we see it's trying to think, it's not sure. Is it going to work? Not, hard to tell. Okay, so if we do, again, we stop it there. We do like, I don't know, for a machine, like an actual machine, we could write google.com, but obviously those want to hack the box are not going to work 100%. So that's something that we have to be mindful, right? So we're not going to be able to use the outside. So if we're not able to use the outside, the inside seems to be hanging a little bit. So that represents an issue. And I use Google. I can try to take a look at information. So that's information that can be verified over here. So is there anything that's interesting here? Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay, so it's going to be hard to tell sometimes, and you have to give it a try, right? So at this point, we don't see many things interesting. We can see that it's powered by Fusion Passenger. It's written in Ruby, most likely, right? So that information can be key. So the next thing that we can actually do is we can do, let's say, a sudo here. I guess I could have done it anywhere else I wanted to. Python 3, and we're going to start our own website, basically. Okay, so tech m for module, http, http.server, and then we're going to do on port 81 because this one is already listening on port 80, right? So if I do on port 80, well, I guess, let's see, I'm going to show you. It's going to tell me that there's an issue, there's an error. So if I see this type of error, I just have to take a look, and then it's going to say address already in use. So I know now that something else is using it. I can try to look for the problem, but in this case, we know it's already paired how, well, the way that Hack the Box designed it, it's already used. So that's not an issue. We can use port 81 in this case. Okay, so now we are going to put it here because that's going to be very important. As we're trying to query and go directly from the convert web page to PDF, right? We're going to take a look here and figure it out if there's anything interesting that's going to go through. Okay, so we already know our IP address, which is this one here. We're going to copy it. Then after that, HTTP colon, not column, sorry, / and then I'm going to paste it there, like, and here, port 81 and / again. Okay, so pay attention to the two things. Whatever it's happening here on my right window, right at the bottom, and then what's happening over here. So we're going to do a submit. So now we see that, oh, see, we're getting like basically a web page that basically we requested because that's exactly where it is, right? Like we are, like if I would cancel this, right, and do a PWD, you see that's where HTTP Malvik is. And if I do an LSLA, we're going to see the exact same thing. So that's basically the exact same web page that's being displayed in this case, right? So that's why we see that's actually working, which is great. Okay. If we want to know more information about this, what we can do actually is we can download it. So I'm going to make a new folder, call it Precious. It's going to be on the home folder under HTTP Malvik, and then press enter. So now I'm entered over here. That's the name of it. I'll leave it as that. That's not a problem at all. Okay, click on save. So now we have our file over here, and we know we can just go to Precious over here because we just created it. If I take a look at my, I'm going to bring it there. So a little bit more in the middle instead of looking at the bottom. So I know that my file now is here, and that's not an issue. We see that there is like content into it. So there's multiple ways that we could try to analyze that file. So I'm going to start with one of the tools that it's fairly evident for most people, but there's a second one that's there's a second one. There's probably more than the second one. But if you know another one that could be helpful, maybe if you write it in the chat, I'm going to give it a try so we can analyze as much as possible what can come out of that. So EXIF tool, right? That's EXIF tool, I think. There we go. And then 7. And then after that, I'm going to press enter. Okay, so that's the main one. I would say that it's going to be easy for all of us to understand, because that one will analyze the file and take a look at what it is, and it's going to help out understand exactly what's the like how it's been generated or anything like that. And here we can see PDF kit version 0.8.6. So is there anybody that has an idea of another command that we can use in the chat real quick? Maybe yes, maybe no. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some research over here. Okay, so we have PDF kit. I copy it, then come here to my web browser, and I'm going to do a exploits, basically DB, and then I'm going to paste this here. Okay. So now we can see that there's something interesting. So we see exploit DB 872. We had, okay, so that's a little bit after. So maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not going to work. So we're not sure, but we're going to try to figure that out. We see also that there is potentially a CVE that's attached to that, right? But let's go take a look here at the exploit DB one. If it loads, we're going to be good. Okay, let's give it a try a second time. We're having a little issue over here. Can I just basically copy link, give it a try like this? Is it going to work? Oh, there you go. Okay, now it worked. Okay, took a little bit longer, but we're safe. All right, so if I do Control V, whoops, no, that was the other one. Okay, we lost the CVE, but I guess that was the same one as this one. Okay, so CVE 2022 25765. So basically, like, if for those that don't know exactly where they're coming from, those CVEs is because that's in 2022, right? That this this exploit, but not this exploit, but this bug has been found, right? And then it's 25,765. If my memory is correct, all these things are done through Mitter. If you guys know Mitter Attack, like the framework, but like the Mitter company, they're part of the group of people that are actually like putting all these things together. And if that's something that interests you, maybe that's a session for later on to show you all the ins and outs of these things, right? We could also try to take a look at the CVE if we want to know more information, maybe, right? Maybe before I go a little bit further, because obviously sometimes those things are quite important. So if I take a look at the National Institute, the National Vulnerability Database, we can also identify some of the information that can be very interesting, right? So as you can see here for this, it's scroll up, scroll down. Is it good? Stopping? Good. So we can take a look at the CVE score for this one, 9.8 critical. We see that the attack vector is network. Well, it's going, but it's a little bit lower. It's on the network. The complexity, low. Is there any privilege required? No. User interaction, done. The scope, unchanged. Confidentiality, high. And then integrity and availability, high. So all these things point out to me that basically if I use it, the chances of success might be the highest, right? Because obviously we can shoot in the dark if we wanted to, and then just like send a bunch of different type of exploit. But at the end of the day, the more skill you get, the better it will be for you to identify those critical one and then find the one that has the highest chance of success for yourself, right? Yeah, James, string is one. For sure, strings is one. So thank you very much for writing that. So let's give it a try. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to take a look at that. So, well, most likely going to find it there. So let's take a look at strings, and then we're going to write the same thing and then press enter. John, you're probably right. I'm not too sure. That's something we're going to have to maybe evaluate eventually. But I'm going to do for sure string for now. Okay, so because I know this one's going to work. And as you can see here, we're able to find the exact same thing. So that's part of the PDF. That's in the X packet, whatever you want to call it, the metadata. There we go, the metadata. That's what I wanted to say. And you can easily find. So James, good answer on this. grep, potentially, I'm not sure, but for sure string is the one I was looking for straight up. So good answer. Perfect. So let's go back to... let's go back over here. So yeah, so we've looked at this. We know that our our exploit that we just found, right, which is this one, PDF kit, seems to be a good one, right? That could work. Basically, also, it's going to tell us that the PDF kit from 0.0.0 are vulnerable to command injection where the URL is not properly sanitized. Wow. So then now we know that most likely our version that we found earlier, right, which is it's here, 0.8.6 would be vulnerable at this point. So the likeliness for us to be able to succeed is getting higher and higher at this point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to raw, right? Because we want to see the raw one. Hopefully we're not bugging it too much, or maybe I could just do copy link. Let's make it simple. And wget and paste the actual link of the raw file, right? And then press enter. So it's not helping me out. Come on. Or worst case scenario, now we just went here and then we can do a copy. And then if it doesn't come up, oh, there you go. Okay, so now we have it. So LSLA, we can see our exploit is here. I'm going to do a move just to make it a little bit easier, 5.1. And then we're going to put to exploits.py, okay? And then Python, well, look, the best thing to do normally, I would say, is whenever you have your exploits, you take a look at it, right? And what we can do is we can make sure that we have the right one, nano, and then we have exploit over here. And we are trying to figure it out if there's anything in here that could be interesting for us, right? So obviously, as we're going to go through, we have some usage that we could also find if we just do the Python 3 and then the exploit.py. And we see we have multiple options that could be very interesting for us, right? And multiple different options as well that could be part of what we want to do. So in this case, we could just do a Python 3, the exploit.py -s, which is a reverse shell mode, right? So we're going to provide our local IP. And then after that is the local port that we choose ourselves on our machine. All right, so that's basically what we're going to do here is this part there, okay? So if we keep going down, we could try to analyze the code. I already did that in the past. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but that's something that would be good practice for you to enumerate and make sure you're on the right path in there, okay? So we're going to do Control X over here. We're going to get out of that. And then we're going to do, again, that same thing. Python 3 and exploit.py. And we said it was the -s, our IP address, or at least my IP address that I have over here, pasted there. And then, whoops, that's the port. Let's say we're going to do 4444, okay? And then press enter. So now the code is going to do pretty much everything for us. And as you can see here, it says copy the payload above and just paste it there. So that's easy enough. I just take this, the payload, right? Which has all the information I gave it, right? Ruby, that's the, basically because we know the Ruby language is there. Our socket's going to do the SH for like similar to Bash, right? Older version though. Our IP address and our port. So now we know that we should be fine. One way to make sure we can listen to that is going to use netcat, right? So NC. And then we're going to do LVNP. So L for listening, V for verbose, N for do not query the DNS, and then P for the port. And in this case, we chose 4444, okay? Press enter. We're going to move here on the side. And then afterwards, we're going to come back to our page that we have here. It's not loading, so it's good. And we're just going to paste our code in this location, okay? And by hitting submit, technically, we should be able to get a reverse shell. So take a look on the right side as I click submit right now. And there we go, okay? So if I take a look here and I do ID, I can see that I'm myself a Ruby. And if I do a host name, I'm going to be able to see that I'm Precious, right? So in this case, I was able to get right inside the foothold with an easy exploit that we were able to analyze initially, find out exactly the CVE, find out the type of vulnerability and how easy it'd be, right? So now we see it's a 9.8. That's super easy to be able to do. No need for authentication and so on. And yeah, so if you guys remember Log4j, not exactly the same type of model. It's a little bit different, but it was a CVE 10. So you can see that it can be extremely dangerous to be able to run those type of vulnerabilities. So at this point, that's going to be my good friend Steve to be able to come on stage and then talk about his stuff. So Steve, up to you now to shine and then show everyone what the blue side is capable of to be able to protect against those type of attacks.
Awesome.
Yours.
Yeah. So the disclaimer is this is not glamorous. It's not as nice as the red team side. I think we all knew that, though. Yeah. So to start out, we'll just look at the tactics for phase 1 and 2. Getting that foothold. As we saw, JF did nmap to run some scripts, figure out the version, determine that Fusion Passenger was running on Nginx. Once you figured out that there was a web app there, let's just tinker around a little bit. Like, we didn't have to dive right in and start trying to exploit. We just played around a bit to see what it does. See if there's anything that we can find from that application. In which case, we did create a PDF, and I say we because I want to be part of it too. And we discovered that there was an old version of PDF Kit in use. So once we understand that, yes, we do have an exploitable piece of software here, we exploit it. We pop the box. We get a reverse shell. Now, here's where it gets a little less sexy, is how we do our countermeasures. So initially here, basically, the first piece I have is a little bit of security through obscurity. You modify the configuration of Nginx to say, don't show server tokens, and then you don't get the version numbers. So it helps you stay a little bit more under the radar, I guess, with your vulnerable software if the attacker can't see the version. Obviously, again, that is security through obscurity, and eventually someone's going to figure it out. But every minute we get on the blue team, it counts. From there, practice safe vulnerability and exposure management. So patch your stuff. And I'm going to throw in a buzzword here, which is SBOM. You may have heard of it lately. There have been even directives from the US government around SBOM, software bill of materials. So be sure that you understand, when you have a vulnerable library such as PDF Kit, understand how you can get that remediation path, understand, what's in your software essentially. Just, I guess I can ask some questions too, because this is interactive. Has anybody here ever created an SBOM before? I heard about it, I think, the first time in 2022. So last year, someone was really harping about it, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't understand. Like, I can list you what it is that's running, like what libraries you have, but I'm not storing it somewhere for you at this point. And now it seems like everyone's got an SBOM tool. So I'm assuming that no one's really interested in that kind of stuff. So we'll we'll move on. But it is one of those things. It's the whole supply chain attack, right? So are my vendors being popped? Is any of the software that I'm using compromised or vulnerable? And how can I prevent that? And honestly, it's just keep track of what's going on and patch your stuff. Web application firewalls. So is there, maybe some sort of appliance you can put in front of your, even just like a reverse proxy? You can use Nginx as well as a reverse proxy, but any sort of network control that you could put in front of this application that would say, hey, I'm noticing that someone is trying to run some encoded, base 64 command, and I'm just going to block that because it's weird. It shouldn't apply to this application. Web app firewall, you have to really make sure that you're on top of it. You're tuning it so that you're not blocking stuff that you shouldn't be, or that you're not letting stuff through that shouldn't be. And because oftentimes people who are in charge of making money are afraid to stop the business. Detection. So you have to understand how you might be able to detect Ruby calling out to or creating an outbound connection, I guess, on port 4444. So why is that port permitted out? Why would that not be blocked? Because it's not 80 or 443, and it's creating an HTTP connection. Also logging. So if someone's trying to send wonky instructions to my web server, does anybody see that? And if I don't have a web app firewall, or if it's not configured correctly whatsoever, is my web server actually logging somewhere? I don't know, somewhere where my team can see it. Do I have some semblance of SIM logs around? It doesn't have to be 404 errors, doesn't have to be strictly 200, but if it's something that is, this connection was completed, but this connection was not standard on 80 or 443, or this connection had encoded text, you want to be able to see that kind of stuff. So in most cases, if you're running vulnerable libraries with internet-facing applications, all you can really do is try your hardest to make sure that you've got your vulnerabilities patched, make sure you're automatically updating wherever you can, put some sort of countermeasure in front of that bad boy, make sure that you can try and detect something weird. And at the very least, if you can't stop it, just try to understand how you can detect when someone does something wrong and how you can try and stop them. And that is about it for the initial countermeasures. So I'll let JF continue, although now I've already stymied his attempt to attack my box. But go on, sir.
Yeah. So there's hold on. There was you talk about S-bomb, right? And I got lateral bud that was like S-bomb definitely interested. So I mean, if you have some insight real quick that you'd like to be able to inform our viewer, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I guess it would depend on the use case or what it is that you're trying to, or how you're trying to get this SBOM in place. But essentially it's like depending on the application you use, I guess, because there's multiple avenues for pulling an SBOM, and that could be, I'm trying to think of the application that is strictly like a SAS tool, like static analysis for code. That helps you understand what is called at what point, which libraries, when, and then which versions of libraries. And then that's all essentially kept in a database, or for me, a lot of folks, I find just a spreadsheet would be better than what you have. As long as you know what's running. Most vulnerability scanners will tell you what services are running, and you might be able to discern which libraries based off of the application. It's really, that's a long conversation around SBOM, but essentially it's understanding your supply chain and understanding how your software is composed. So I guess it's called SCA, software composition analysis, to understand where you might have vulnerable libraries or just out-of-date software that you weren't aware of.
Perfect. So good things to remember, right? I'm probably going to say it again. Blue side has to be right all the time. On the red team side, only once. And then once you get in and you put your backdoor in and then they decide to patch it, I'm already in. So that's the thing, right? And all these things needs to be accounted for. And that's something very, very difficult on the blue team side. So I think it's very important to highlight both of them and understand that working together, purple teaming, is extremely, extremely important. So there's another question also from John. So how about some input sanitization on either the WAF proxy side of things or the application itself?
Actually, that I'm not sure why that's not in my slides, but that is in my notes beside my slides. Input sanitation, like you want to make sure, because the vulnerability with PDFkit is that it didn't do that job. So you might want to have either front end. So like if you have a JavaScript form, you want to make sure that you're validating. And then also, on the WAF, that's kind of where you would say, okay, I'm seeing encoded text. Like, why am I seeing encoded text? And if you can do some sort of decoding and then say, oh, wow, I'm detecting that this is literally just trying to create a shell. Like it's just a URL with a URL attached to it that is trying to call. So that's 100%. You've got to make sure that you're doing sanitization, validation of your input, either in your front end, in your back end, or, as some people have been doing, making sure that the libraries you're using, such as PDFkit, are doing that for you.
Yeah, yeah. And let's say food for thought right now for most people, right? At least for now, okay? And we're going to discuss about the answer maybe in a minute or two. But what is the better way to be able to protect yourself over here? Is it to do the client-side protection? Is it to do a sanitization? Is it better to have a server-side sanitization and or have, I'm saying and or, could be all three all together, but which one of the three is better? So let me repeat it again. So client-side sanitization, server-side sanitization, or having a WAF or a device that will protect you against that. So think about it and then shoot your answers in the chat, because obviously there's one amongst many of them that's going to be better for most of the things, right? Because obviously if we think about blue side, we have to render this available as much as possible. So I'll let people answer if they are confident. Don't worry about your answers. We're gonna maybe explain a little bit more why that be the case. So good, perfect. So in the meantime, I guess Steve, while people are answering, I'm gonna start jumping on my machine, and then thank you very much for your part, and then we'll see you in a few minutes.
Perfect.
All right, so now we're back to where we were, and as you can see, I did not write anything else, right? I did not go any further. I did not try to do anything in the back end, while in the background, while you guys were watching Steve, right? So there's no magic trick that's going to be pulled over here. So we're going to have to take a look at it, figure it out what we need to do, and then go past this point. So most of the time, what we're going to do, right, is once we get into a machine, we're going to do our little trick over here to elevate our shell. Okay, so I see one answer, server side. Is that server side? Who knows? We'll see very soon. Yeah, so basically we're going to take a look which version of Python we have, because if we start like writing a bunch of different Python thing, like Scribble and something like that, we're losing our time sometimes, and it can be quite long. We could copy paste as well, but that's a different thing too. But if we do, let's say, which Python 3 in this case, and I press enter, I see I have Python 3. So my goal now is to write a Python 3 code so I can actually be able to put all my stuff in not my stuff, but upgrade my shell basically into a little bit more stable one, right? So import pty and then pty dot spawn, okay? And then after that, we're going to go with brackets, and then we're going to do bin bash in it, okay? So that's basically what, yeah, that's good. Sorry, I erased it. So that's basically going to elevate our shell a little bit more, and now we can see we have more information. The main thing that's, yes, Jamwine, you're right. You should think about defense in depth at this point. Yeah, so at this point right now, what we have is we have a shell, a better shell than we used to have before. But if I press my arrow keys, I'm having issues, right? So I'm going to show you a little trick here that's... if that's something that you guys are interested, I could possibly put it onto the Discord channel eventually, right? So give me a second. I'm gonna go get mine directly. That's on my notes here. Give me a second, and then I'm gonna copy this. It's a little trick that somebody, a good friend of mine, called Hedera. She shared that with me at one point. So we come back here. We do a Control Z, right? So it looks like we're getting out. I hit Control C. Control Z, Jeff. Okay, let's go back here, and then let's do a resubmit over here. So we're back into this spot. So I'm going to do just copy and paste now this time because we already did that part. Control C. So that's the issue, right? And that's exactly what I want to show you, because once you press Control C, you're done. So if you were doing a bunch of stuff, you have to go back into the machine. You have to do everything else again. So now what I'm going to show you is basically you don't have to do it anymore. Okay. So Control Z this time, right? So it stops, but it's still like in the background. So it's not completely stopped. It's just like not in the foreground at this point. And then we're going to do Control Shift V. And as you can see, it's a bunch of gribble here. So that's why I'm not going to show it directly. Press Enter. We see here the rows and then the columns, right? It's rather small. I could have made it better, bigger, and then the rows and columns would have been bigger. So then my next step is to copy my other one. And again, I'm not going to just like write it because that's even longer. This one, it's going to look weird. So Control Shift V. Okay. So I don't see everything, but that's fine. I'm going to press Enter. It's going to ask me, oh, the terminal is dumb or dump. Maybe I need it a little bit bigger. Or yeah. Or maybe it didn't work. Okay, let's go back here. That's weird. So it probably just crashed. My thing was not big enough. So, okay, let's redo this again. That happens sometimes, but we're going to make it work for sure because I know it worked. I tried it. Easy enough. NC LVNP 4444. We listen in. We're going to do here. Submit. We're back in business. Then I do my Python 3. Enter. Then Control Z. If it doesn't work for whatever reason, that it is what it is. And as a hacker, you have to be versatile and adapt to whatever it's showing up in front of you. So we have 31, and that's 1111. I'm going to just copy this. Okay, copy, and then paste it there. Press Enter. There we go. Okay, it worked. 31, which is the number of rows, and then 11. I press Enter, and then 111, and then press Enter. Okay, so now in this case, it's an actual shell. It's going to feel like an actual shell. So if I do like LSLA, right, and then I press the up arrow, I get it. If I come back, I'm able to come back. I'm able to navigate through it, and then I'm able to enter information, and then just press Enter afterwards, right? So that's extremely, extremely handy to be able to actually do that, okay? So if that's something that interests you, obviously I will share with you guys. I'm quite sure there's people probably talking about it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now that we're in, we need to do some enumeration on the inside. There's multiple ways of doing it. Is there a proper 100%? No, because sometimes something could happen. But obviously, if you can do sudo-l, right, it'd be the first thing that you need to do. But in this case, we have no idea what's the password of Ruby. So like I showed you earlier, I pressed Control-C, and it kind of screwed that up, right? So now if I press Control-C, I'm back to where I was. So see how stable having something like this is, right? It makes a hell of a difference at the end of the day. Yeah, so then what we're going to do here, we're going to do, we have our LSLA. We can take a look at cat config. And if I press tab, it's going to autofill as well. And then press Enter, require relative environment, not in a whole lot of information, probably go to config, LSLA. So these things are always going to be trivial, right? Because you have to find that little thing where maybe they left something. So maybe here there's nothing interesting. CD ... LSLA. Again, take a look. Do we have something maybe in the PDF folder? Do we have something here? No, not really. Okay, so one thing that a lot of people might use, okay, and I'm quite sure most people here, and I know one probably going to be able to spell it out right away. It's called, okay, if I come here and take this page, linpeas. LinPeas is well, I mean, you have LinPeas, but you have WinPeas, right? So it's a an actual place that was done by like it's Peas next gen, right? Where you can have the Windows one and you can have also the Linux one. Linux one is LinPeas, and then you have Windows, which is WinPeas that can also use for Linux privilege escalation, right? So that's a way to be able to take a look and find out how you can get it done, right? So if we take a look here, what's interesting, I mean, like that's the GitHub page. So we could probably just copy this. We see that's the SH. We're going to copy it, but we're not going to be able to just like paste it there, right? Because it's not going to work directly and it's not able to go into GitHub. So in this case, what we have to do is to start a new terminal. We're going to go under Precious again. We know that we have our PDF that's there, but in this case, and the exploit that we used earlier. So in this case, what we need to accomplish here is to do a wget again and go get that file. Press enter. We have the file. We confirm that everything is good to go. And then now we should have LinPeas. Okay, we have it there. Perfect. There's multiple ways again to be able to share that, to exchange it. I'm going to show you one way. Well, I guess you already seen kind of one way. And then I tried to think about another one that could be helpful, because the main thing to remember is it's not because you want to use one technique to be able to get a file on the machine that it's going to be always there. So you have to be very versatile. If the software is not there, you need to revert to something else. You need to think about another option, right? So now I already showed you the wget function, right? So Python 3, and then we're going to do the -m for module, http.server on port 81. Okay, well, 81 is already taken. That's right, we already took it there. So let's go. Yeah, I need to do a sudo. So port 81, right? It was on the other terminal, and it seems that it's still working. So that's the reason why port 81 is still being kind of used. I could go on, do an stat and then terminate it, and that'd be a way to be able to get my port 81 back. That's one way to do it. So here in this case, port 82 is going to do the exact same thing pretty much. And then we go on the attacking machine, right? The machine we're attacking currently, and we're going to go under TMP here, and then do a wget 10.10.15.101, which is, as you can see here, my IP address, right? It's the same one. And now we're going to go on port 82 /linpeas.sh. Okay. And we just have to take a look on the left side. We should be able to query it and get the information transferred. So there's nobody that knows how to transfer differently the file, unless somebody wrote on Discord. I didn't see it. If that's the case, no, I don't see anybody in Discord. Nobody knows. Yeah, there's curl, but let's say I don't. Let's say curl is not there, wget is not there, because curl, yes, obviously you could do that. Well, sorry, I just gave out the thing that you were trying to put in there, Steve. But you got curl, obviously. So let's say we could do a which curl. So curl, we have it. So we could do technically the same thing. Whoops. Let's go with this. It's going to be a little bit easier. Do a curl. And then we are going to get the same thing. However, we need to output it to, let's say, lin2.sh, for example. Okay. And we do this, lsla. And then now we have lin2.sh that's here. Okay. And we see that the information went through. Is there another way to be able to get that? No. Yeah. Curl there. We tried it. But let's say I don't have this. I don't have this machine. Well, sorry, I'm not able to use curl. I'm not able to use wget. Which other software normally would allow me to be able to do it? I kind of showed it to you earlier. Netcat. netcat here, okay? And then here we're going to do a NV, okay? And then go directly on my IP, for example, and then put it there. Put the IP, let's say 82, not the IP, but the port 82. And now what I want to do is export the file. So whatever it's going to be transferred there is going to go there. So lin3.sh. Okay. I need to do the same thing over here. Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. NC, LVNP, and we're going to do on port 82. However, in this case, we are going to push the file over there. So we're going to do a linpiece.sh. So whatever is going to go through that one is going to get ejected onto my other machine. So I'll press enter. Oops, I need to do an netcat again. Seems to be the bane of my life right now. All right, so we're sitting on port 82. We're going to push that linpiece.sh directly there. And then over here on my right side, which is the attacking machine, I'm going to go and query the one on the left, right? So press enter. Command not found. So, oh, here we go. So I guess NC is not there. So again, that would have been another way to be able to do it. But in this case, let's say you would have been used to NC or netcat. That would have been the case and you would have been an issue, right? So that's why like now we just explored like 3 different techniques to be able to get that. We look at curl, we look at wget, and then we look at netcat that we could have done, right? So obviously in this case, we're not going to be able to go further with netcat because it's not there. But you understand what I mean? Like the whole thing of exactly being versatile, understanding exactly what's in front of you, understanding the machine that you're going to be playing with is extremely key. We could have used SSH, SSH when we get a password, if that's the thing. So there's a bunch of stuff. We're going to explore more, but obviously at least now we have like 3 different versions that we identified. Okay, so do we have still? Okay, so lin3, it's at 0, so obviously it did not write anything. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wget, and then we're going to do that. Well, curl works as well. LSLA, we have. Oh, I need to get my my thing here going. Huh? sudo python 3 port 82. Port 82. We do this. LSLA. And then we're going to do the Python 3 and then lin sh and then press enter. Oh, my dad, sorry, bad words coming out of my mouth. I forgot about that. Schmod. I was doing a Python because I was getting used to it. We can do 777, which is going to give everything pretty much that file. Or we could do, let's say, a E plus X, and then do that if it's still there. Is it E? I can't remember. Let's do a plus X directly. LSLA. So now if we take a look at lin2.sh, we have this here, the execute, which is extremely important. And if we come over here, we have the lin2, and it's not there, right? So we were able to allow us the whole thing. Yeah, so there we go. So now we do a lin sh and press enter. Okay, so this script is basically going to go through everything, right? If we take a look here, we have a legend, red, yellow. Technically, it should be an attack vector, and 95% of the chance are that it will be exactly where you're going to be able to take it to. Red, well, you should take a look at it, but does not mean that's what it is, right? So obviously, a lot of information can be gathered from here as you're doing your enumeration. And it doesn't mean that this software will tell you exactly how to do it, right? And you're going to see this in this example. Because obviously, like right now, I'm showing that to you. This is an extremely useful tool. But if I just show you what works 100%, you're not going to learn. And you're going to think that these things should be telling you everything that you should know, right? But in this case, that's not what it is, right? So we take a look. We can find that pseudo version 1.9.5 is there. We can go a little bit further, see the environment, the variables. Is there anything that could be worth for us looking at potentially? We have also the Linux exploit suggester coming in, right? So I was going to take a look at some of the common exploits you could use, and we'll verify if they're usable against it. Take a look here at more information. Some of the processes that are being run as Ruby. We're probably going to see some as root, as you can see here. That can be interesting, maybe. Take a look. So you see, like, we're going to go through that for a little while, and that can take a long time. But all your information can be all gathered here. Another thing, too, to take a look at is all the active port inside. Because there's two things that could be happening. There's maybe another service that was not available from the outside that we can see, right? Because obviously, like, if we would have done nmap scan of all the ports, potentially there's another one that would have showed up, or maybe not, because it might be only accessible from the inside, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. So in this case here, we can see that like it's only from the inside that these things are happening, but there's nothing like that's really, really interesting in this case right now. And then the second thing would be that maybe it's a dual home computer where we can maybe pivot to another machine, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind here. And if we take a look, like we see here, all the users, I'm going to go down, but technically you're going to see that there's pretty much nothing. However, extremely important to take a look at it. If you're doing on a Hack the Box platform, go ahead, use those. If you're doing into an engagement, I would refrain myself from doing that because you're basically looking to get caught. That's the biggest issue you might be facing here. So, all right. So in this case, I mean, like, we didn't find anything. It is what it is, but we need to go even further. So now we're going to do a CD, and we're going to go on the let's say the root folder, okay, and take a look here if there's maybe anything that could be worth looking at. So we have the home, so home could be one. LSLA, we have the user Henry, so user Henry here. I can take a look at it here. We see the user.txt. That could be something to look at, especially for Hack the Box where we need to collect the user text, but I have permission denied. The reason behind that is because root is the owner, and then that's Henry. Was it the group? If I can remember, their group is Henry that can actually take a look at it. So basically, because if I do ID, I see that I'm only Ruby. So because I'm not part of the group Henry, I'm not going to be able to take a look at it. Right. So that's what it is, unfortunately. So is there anything else that could be worth looking over here? Maybe bash history would have been good, right? But obviously we have the dev null, which is preventing us from actually doing anything, because every time that there is something that was written, it was going to dev null. Sometimes you can take a look at those files, but basically there's like nothing in here. Here we have Ruby as well, user. We can take a look. Is there anything that could be interesting? So we have one file, or one, not drive, one folder. There we go. One folder that seems to be a little bit different than the other one we had above. So maybe we can take a look at that. Doesn't mean we're going to get something. Who knows? And then we do a cat config. And it seems that we have Henry here and potentially a password. Okay. So that could be very interesting to take a look at. So if we do like sudo, and then we try to log in this way, we're going to remain with the same type of shell. But in my case, what I would prefer to do is do a SSH and then Henry and then precious.hdb. Yes, because I accept the fingerprint. Okay. Should allow me to be able to log in anytime soon. Okay, let's try again. Maybe there's a little hiccup. I know Hack the Box recently has a third-party problem right now, so that could be interfering a little bit with with this. But if that's the case, we already have a shell somewhere else, so we're going to do something else to make it work. So that's not going to be a problem at all. Maybe if I just try the IP address directly. Oops. It seems that's... Oh, did the whole machine crash? Okay. Because this one is done. Okay, let me just copy this. We're going to put that onto a notepad. Yeah. Not everything goes to plan sometimes. Oops, not this. Let's see. Is it going to work? Okay, let me go do a checkup real quick here. Okay, let's do SSH, where maybe a ping would have tell us if it works or not. Okay, there we go. So maybe with the IP address it works, but the other one does not work. So it's better to give those things a try before we actually try to do a reset on that machine. Okay, so we saved our passwords over here. Let's paste it here, enter, and there you go. So now we've established we did a lateral movement, right, to another user from Ruby to Henry, and now we know the password. We know how we can actually get into the machine, and now we're safe in there. Basically, this one was a really good and stable shell. Well, I mean, like until it crashed. But in this case, like now we have an SSH and we know how we can get back in, right? Oh, did it come back? It seems that it was just a minor connection. Okay, there we go. So it came back. It did not crash. It was just a little hiccup in the connection. So we're just going to put that on the side just in case we need it later on. But for now, I don't think it's going to be very needed. So we're going to concentrate ourselves a little bit more on the left side over here. So in this case, we can actually do the exact same thing because obviously coming from Ruby and then going directly to Henry, it's two different things, right? So we start with sudo-l. That's my go-to. How many times, right? You're going to go around. You're going to try to do and figure it out exactly a way to be able to do the hack. You're going to go, for example, on the forum. You're going to go on Discord on Hack the Box. You're going to look for clues maybe at one point with other people because you've tried everything, and then you just realize you do sudo-l, and then you realize it's right there, right? It's basically telling you that there is a potential possibility that you can use this, right? So obviously this is an explicit path. So you don't have a choice but to use this explicitly, right? And then no password to be able to use it as root. So that's potentially dangerous. And I'm quite sure that our good friend here, Steve, will be able to elaborate on this later on. Let me go back here. All right, so now first things first is we're going to go and take a look at what it does. Okay, again, like I told you earlier, we need to, as much as possible, trying to figure it out what a piece of software like this will do. Okay, so basically it's going to use YAML. It's going to require Ruby gem. So some of the stuff that needs to be installed, right, the dependencies. And then YAML load file read dependencies. So basically it's going to look for this in place. Okay, so a file like that, and there's no explicit path on this guy. So potentially we can utilize that, right? Is there any other information? No. Is there one here? Okay, no, sorry. I got to go here on this. On this folder, and then I'm going to take a look. There's a sample there. So cd sample. Is there anything there? Cat dependencies. So YAML PDF kit. So that's basically what it is, but that's not much. Like it doesn't tell us if there's anything. Interesting. So obviously, like I could go for quite some times. We can, we could even try. Maybe not that. Let's go back here. What does it do, right? That's another thing too that we need to ask ourselves if we start loading it in this case. So sudo or sudo, depending on how you say it. Control C, Control V, and then we're going to press enter. Right? No such file in this directory. Dependencies, updates, dependencies, RB, list. So there's a bunch. So John, you said, isn't there a vulnerability of sort with Ruby that can allow for a shell or something with a poorly or properly, in our case, a dependencies file? Yes, there is such a thing. So technically, like if we keep looking into the Ruby documentation, right? I'm going to show you what it is, but if we keep taking a look at it, is it going to allow me? I got the link over here. And then what we are going to do is we are going to explore exactly what John is basically saying, okay? That talks about YAML. And then again, that's something that we would have had to do more research. And if you guys are fairly new and trying to understand how to be able to go through, the method I'm showing you, it's a little bit faster, right? Because I already done it. I already did a couple of things with it. I already did the research on a couple of things to make sure that what I'm showing you is going to be very interesting. But ultimately for you, as you are trying to go through it, you will have headaches left and right. It might take you like to find this page and find the exact information on how to be able to take advantage of that machine. It might take you 3, 4, 5 hours, right? It happens to me that it took me a full day to find something very simple, ultimately. But let's move on. But I just want you to be mindful about the fact that it's not a cookie cutter thing that you just do X, Y, and Z, and then it will work all the time. So it's going to be very difficult. So yeah, so basically, if we keep going here, it says, once we're working with YAML, right, we're going to see that there is issues with it. We see do not use YAML to load untrusted data. Doing so is unsafe and could allow malicious input to execute arbitrary code inside your application. Please see doc and security doc for more information. So it gives us a lot of information. It's asking us as well about the version that we have. So that's interesting enough. So let's give it a try and take a look. Ruby -v. So we have the 2.7.4. Is there anything that could be pointing to this on the unsecure stuff? So that's another thing too that we can take a look and we could potentially find more information, right? So YAML using an exploit or something like that, that's something we're going to take a look at, right? And we could do basically a little bit of research over here and do, let's say, YAML, Ruby, exploit maybe. In this case, maybe that's potentially something we can take a look at. Ruby YAML, GitHub. That could be one. Payloads, all things. That's another one. A lot of times it's pretty good. So we can take a look at it and trying to see if there's anything. So, see, 2.x and then 3.x. So here it's before 2.7.2. That could be potentially another one. Take a look at. That's universal. So that's interesting enough that we can potentially try to use this one directly and see if it's going to work, right? So we're going to copy this over here, right? And then we're going to go, not there. It's in the back. Sorry, my windows are a little bit mixed up over here. So let's take this down. This one, we don't need it for now. So let's clean this up a little bit. Okay. So now in this case, what we can do is we can do a nano and then dependencies.yml, I believe, and then enter. And we're going to paste what we have. So that's our payload, right? And then if we take a look here, we have ID, right? So basically what it should do, this one, whenever we load it, it will basically do the command ID. So Control X, yes. over here, save it as this file. So I'm going to override it. Well, overwrite, permission denied, dependency. So you know what we're going to do is somewhere else. Maybe we don't have the rights to be able to do it there. No. So let's go to TMP and then nano dependencies. And keep in mind, because in the code, there was no explicit path, right? No slash similar to this, right? It was just dependencies. That's the reason why we're able to go wherever we want, basically, when we're going to load this. So I'm going to do nano dependencies, paste my code over here. I see, again, it's ID, Control X, yes to save it, and then enter. And now we have it there. LSLA. It's good. Hopefully I didn't misspell this one. We're going to do a sudo-l again, just to have our full command, which we are going to copy. Copy here, and then write sudo, and then paste this one here. And then the thing is, oh, there we go. So you can see here, the ID command I sent, it was actually pushed, right? So we know that it actually works. So whenever we use that code with sudo and then the Ruby and then the actual file, it goes exactly where we're at currently. So under temp, so we're able to craft our own file to be able to do basically command injection, right? And then just use that as the user that we were, because we use sudo and then we were able to be root. So now we need to change it a little bit, right, to do what we would like to do. So there's multiple ways. If you've seen the walkthrough directly and you took a look at it, you're going to be able to find there's another way that was actually done into the document, and that's fine. That's not a problem at all. I'm going to show you my way, which seems to be the easiest, fastest one to be able to achieve. So if I do the same thing here and I come back down, and then instead of being ID, okay, I do a bin bash. Okay, so bin bash, super easy. Just save it there. Y, enter, and then we're going to do the exact same thing. Okay, so sudo, the whole thing, and then bang, I'm root, right? So ID, and if I go, let's say, to root, whoops, yeah, I'm in root. And then I do LSLA. I see root over here. So I can see the actual files inside. If I do a cats and then root.txt, I'm going to show you the code, right? So it doesn't matter because they change. But you can see now I have the flag and I'm root at this case. Okay, so is there any other way that you guys can think of that would have been feasible to work and get let's say reverse shell, get something like that to make it work, right? So we can be actually root, but differently, because sometimes that may not work. I guess I just gave you some sort of insight on how to do it. Let's do exit. We're going to go back here. We have dependencies.yaml is still there. Okay. I'm going to check. I hear Discord. Is there anything on Discord that seems to be interesting? Is there anybody that has any idea of what else we could have done? Yeah. Okay. So we got John that, oh, I guess I can show those things. There you go. So see here, I didn't realize I could do that. Right. So that's one that could have been done. Exactly. I'm going to show you a little thing. You probably, I don't know if you guys know about that. There is an actual website that can be searched. It's to craft reverse shell. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it right away. I think it's revshells.com. Hold on. Revshell. There we go. Revshells.com. So this one, if you can, take some notes, right? So you saw here, well, I should probably hide your thing. Yes. This one, you could try to do that and try to go around this. So if you're trying to move a file, that's the only thing you can do. That could be one of the things. It says change permission, but technically you could also move a file. Yeah, could do that. But technically you're not root yet, right? So if you can, I don't know, like go move the password file, not the password file, change the password file, or then copy the shadow file. You might be able to extract the hashes over there and then do a brute force offline, right? So that's another way to do it. But if I show you here some of the things that can be done from this case, we're going to be able to see all. Whoops. We're going to be able to see all the different things that can be used. Is it going to allow me to do it correctly? There we go. Okay. It's a little bit finicky. So if I take a look here, we're going to see that we have a C sharp, right? Code that's going to be here. We're going to have curl. We can have netcat. So depending on what you have on your machine, like even PHP, they're all there. And the thing is, what's the beauty of it is if you know the IP, like your IP, let's, for example, for me, it's 15.101. And then I can leave it a port, this one, where I could put it as port 4443, right? And then after that, everything is being crafted for me. So I don't need to figure it out. I just need to do this. And then I can select my shell that I want. So if I want bin sh, it's going to do it. If I want some sort of encoding, like URL encoding, it's going to do it for me. So that's the best thing. That's the beauty of this type of site or this website, to be able to just take a look at all of them. If you want to just look for Linux, like because you know it's the Linux OS, you can take a look at that. If you want to just Windows, you take a look at them. So very, very, very good. So really good. John, you had another great answer there. So obviously that would have been another one to play with. Yeah, Python 3 reverse shell generator. So we got bind and we got MSF Venom if we want to try to craft those ones. So see, I did not even change the IP and then the port. Everything is still being kept in those boxes and being generated here as I'm going through, depending on what I need, right? And then I can just like copy it or download the payload or just copy it like that, right? And then after that, paste it into my terminal, for example, here. Maybe not this one. Maybe not this one. Let's start one over here real quick. And I just do this Control V, press enter. I just wait, and then I'm going to have my reverse.exe available there very soon. There we go. So LSLA, press enter, and I can see it's right there. Right, I just created it December 1st because it's UTC, right? That's the reason why. All the machines are in UTC time. So yeah, so basically that's what it is. That's all the different things you can do to be able to move things forward, right? So that's a great way. Is there anything else I wanted to show? I think that's about it. So yeah, so on this, I guess I got again our good friend there that is going to talk about the lateral movement and that, well, the defense about the lateral movement, and then also the root phase to be able to get into the machine, and how can you protect, detect, and try to enforce some of the stuff in there. So I got there we go, Steve. Oh, there we go.
Awesome.
You're muted. So have at it, and then show the world what you're capable of, or what the blue side is capable of against the red team.
Perfect.
All yours.
Awesome. Thank you. I'd like to address Alex's comment there first. Yes. Now, we'll move on to phase 3 and 4. So we saw JF move laterally.
So what was the comment?
It was oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess if you can't see it. Wouldn't trying to create more shells be more likely to trigger alerts to the blue team? And most definitely. Actually, that's not true. Not most definitely. It should, but it depends on how good the blue team is and if there are actually detections in place for such things. But yes, I'd like to say yes. So the tactics for phase 3 and 4, we saw JF discovered some creds in an app config file. Henry, come on, man. Like, anyways, credential reuse is bad. Oh, I took out all my my emojis, I guess, putting it in this platform, but it was the face palm. And then getting root, sudo with no password. Again, come on. And then using relative path in your application. So it's not like this is a one-off terrible thing. It's pretty common. But yeah, it does make it a lot easier when you leave little breadcrumbs around, like passwords that maybe you use somewhere else. If you're using a password in clear text, you probably shouldn't make it a password you're using somewhere else. And unfortunately, there are way too many web applications that do require like creds in config files. WordPress being one of them. Yeah, and not using the absolute path for the config file. What that means is, if depending on where I run this application, as long as I have that config file, I can put whatever I want in there and it's going to read it. Whereas it should be, here is where all of my config files are, maybe a /conf directory or something like that for your application. Make sure that is explicit in your script. You should never try and call files relatively, because no matter what, no matter where I am, I could be in my home folder and have, like you saw, that malicious config file, and I can just use the absolute path to run the application, and the application is looking in my folder because it's using relative path. So what do we do about that? Get a password manager. In this day and age, who uses passwords? Yeah, it's pretty much everybody. And I'm not sure if anyone is old enough to remember HB Gary back in the day. They were an organization that were, they really prided themselves on their security. I forget the guy's name, but he wrote the book on rootkits. I have it in my bookshelf somewhere. And they got popped because I think it was a 16-year-old girl from Anonymous. So like in high school, not someone who's been out in the world a whole lot, but apparently hanging out with Anonymous. So must be up to something malicious. But she was able to imitate a sysadmin, get Buddy's password, which turned out to also be his Twitter password, and I forget what other accounts he had. And not only got access to stuff, but made him look like a complete fool. And that's why HB Gary is not really a name you hear much anymore. So get a password manager. Keep that one password for that password manager somewhere safe, maybe a YubiKey or something. But don't keep reusing passwords, especially ones that are stored in clear text. Lock down your sudo usage. There might be cases where you need no password for a script or something like that, but don't make that a regular user account. That should be classified as a service account and protected as such. And then just coding best practices. And yes, it's easy to say use the best practices, but sometimes if you're in a rush and you're trying to get a project finished, you do what you got to do just to get it to work. This is where pipeline comes into play, right? So it's not just about monitoring your code as you're writing it to make sure you're doing the right thing, but if you do screw something up or if you do leave a vulnerability, use some sort of a SAST tool, right? Also, so SAST is static application security testing, and then you use dynamic, so DAST, dynamic application security testing, which is your tool like Web Inspector, something like that, where you try and run the application and feed it the input that will make it break. SAST is where you actually read through the code, something reads through the code and says, you're using relative path here rather than absolute path. That'd be something simple to pick up. So again, it's the best practices. It's not just while you're coding, it's also how you manage the code. It's also how you assess the code once it's been written before you push it to production. Yeah. So in a nutshell, those are 3 really good countermeasures to prevent an attack like this from coming to fruition. But at the end of the day, just looking at JF's comment there, use your imagination, because the attackers are constantly using their imagination, and the blue team is generally a little more confined in what they can do. You can, as long as you're implementing the best practices, that gets you table stakes, right? That gets you to the point where all the low-hanging fruit is kind of hidden away. So it's behind your controls, to the point where, even though it's easy to exploit, it's no longer low-hanging fruit, because you've got some sort of controls or some sort of checks and balances in place that will prevent attackers from gaining easy access. And as with all things security, it's never an end state, it's a process. So get a password manager. What would happen if you had LastPass? Well, now you got to try and figure out what's going to be your next password manager. Because in the event that one of these vendors gets popped, you're again looking at a supply chain issue, and okay, now all my passwords are gone, or not gone, but compromised. So you've got to start from scratch, but you've got to make sure that you're constantly going through these processes, not just, oh, I see an attack, I'm going to try and prevent it. It's more, that's the purple side of things, right? Where we're going to attack ourselves, and using a methodology called OODA, Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. It's one of my favorite, I guess, frameworks or models, whatever you want to call it, that I use in incident response. You're just trying to observe what's wrong, put it into perspective, make a decision, take action before the bad guys can get that Henry's password, right? And then if you notice someone has Henry's password, then you're working on getting countermeasures in place so that he can't be exploited and getting root on your systems. So it's just a constant stream of, well, I'm bald for a reason, right? Like a JF too, right? So that's what everyone who's new at this gets to look forward to. I'm not sure about the female side of things, maybe not, but definitely has impacted me. And with that, I guess, bald jokes aside, I am finished. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that I made JF not look, or I hope I made JF's task look a little bit harder. But yeah.
That was good. Well, thank you, Steve. That was very informative to know about being bald and all that stuff. I mean, like I'm the one that chose to be bald, but I guess I'm getting there as I get older, right?
I guess, yeah. I didn't have a choice.
It is what it is. Well, that's pretty much the same thing for me as well too. That I mean, it is what it is, and you know what? I accept it. I'm quite happy about that. Doesn't matter. It doesn't make me a better hacker or a worse hacker. Well, maybe some could potentially differ to that. Who knows? Well, that's fun. That's fun. So yeah, thank you very much for your vision of it. I've seen good comments about the addition of it, of that. I don't think there's actually other YouTube channels that brings the whole scheme all together of blue and red teaming side nice. Into one place, right? So I think we can differ ourselves a lot different than like other YouTube channel, right? And it's not because I'm trying to compete against them, but it's trying to make sure that you guys are getting the best knowledge as possible. And by knowing both sides is going to make you so much more of a better at cybersecurity, right? So keep at it. We're quite happy to have you all here. I had some other notes as well I wanted to say. So yeah, so I hope you really like the new format. Please do not hesitate to share on Discord or any other platform. Like if you know where I'm at, just like share your your feedbacks. If you think there's something that could be improved or something like that, we're all about constructive criticism because we want to make this place as successful as possible. So without you guys, obviously we're not going to be able to do it, right? So please share your insight or anything else that we could do to improve things up in this place. Also, I would like to give some special thank you to a couple of people, right? So obviously there's Steve that's here, but John Moore, Red Sisu, Mephisto, they're all people that are also helping out in the background, in the back. You don't really see them that much, but they are there, right? They're not on the stream, but they're there to help us out to be able to get this this stream feasible. So thank you very much to anybody. If I miss somebody, I apologize, but thank you very much for everyone to be able to be part of this and help us out making it successful. So right now we're a little bit ahead of time, obviously, but I know that I asked a question earlier, right? I think that's probably a good thing to just come back and take a look at that question. So the question I asked, and feel free, shoot any questions you may have. Steve and I are here until 8 p.m., right? So probably another like 24 minutes or so. And we're willing to have a conversation with you and then have a discussion about these things. And if you have anything else around that, we're available for you guys. And again, that's free of charge. Free of charge. As long as you're willing to take a look at our ball nest, we're going to be good. So
I gotta do something for this shine.
Yeah. Do you need like some the shoe polish that you have for boots, and then you put it on your head? There we go. So that's the way to do it, right? All right. So okay. So I asked you guys earlier about what's better, like one of the three. Obviously, somebody made a good comment. You want all three if you can do it on the defense in depth. But what's better? Is it better to have something on a client side to stop, let's say, common injection or something like that? Anything that could be that could look like that. Is it better to have a server side sanitization happening on server side? Or is it better to have it directly on the like an appliance or something like that to be able to stop it, right? So there's a bunch of people that said a couple of things. I got Alexandre that said service side. I guess maybe John could be more of a WAF thing that he said, which is maybe a little bit more of an appliance. James told us about the defense in depth. So obviously, technically, that's the right one, right? You have all the protection all over the place. And so what would be, I don't have any other answers anywhere else. I don't think so. So what would be the answer, you think, Steve?
It's a tough one. I think it depends on what it is you're protecting against, right? So some things are better. So like sanitization is generally better on the server side. Validation upfront on the client side, so like in the form itself, and then with WAF, it's often like signature based. So if or anomaly based, I guess nowadays. So you want a certain level of protection so that the blatantly malicious is blocked at WAF, and then if someone's like, oh, I'm just gonna throw in a bunch of like a curl command on top of this URL. That could be prevented at the client side. So that way the server's not even able to parse it. Like it's just already blocked. And then on the server side, if there's, if it's an email address, it's supposed to look a certain way, you can validate that. If you notice that there's like a second URL attached to your first URL, you could sanitize that to pull out the dots, and change the format or whatever to defang, I guess, the request. Those are my thoughts. So it really is kind of a triad approach. But
if you have to choose one, which one you choose?
Easiest one for me would probably be just form validation. I would go client side.
Client side? So that can be interesting because I see this as an attacker a little bit differently. So for example, if I go back onto, let's say I show my my thing over here again, and then we go back to convert page. So let's close this over here, and then we're just going to make it minimize a little bit, right? So, for example, if we go back here and we have the burp suite.
I see where I want to change my answer.
So there you go. Okay, so just wait until I'm done with my answer over here, right? So let's do I accept. So see, I mean, like on the blue side, you have to be extremely careful, right? So that's why we're showing you those things. We're trying to show you that sometimes you're going to think about one thing, but you didn't think about the other one. You need to have the perspective of everything. So I should start or stop talking and just act, press those buttons, because otherwise he's going to be right. Okay, so Burp Suite, basically, it's an application where you can intercept all like everything that's going on. So, for example, if we talk about client side would be on the website, there's sanitization where things would be blocked. Okay, so now if I put like this, well, maybe not that exactly, but I guess HTTP, I got one here I can put down, right? So if I put down there and I go here under Foxy Proxy and then burp, okay? And I got my intercept on and then I do submit. Okay, now basically what I've just done, I've entered the correct stuff in place, right? Which makes sense to the application. But if I know that there's something else in the backend that can be done, and then we can go around it, I'm able to change it. Now I'm using the proxy. I already that's the client side. I already bypassed it, right? So I'm already able to just go there. So the thing is, what I want to try to show you is if you have a place where you can upload files, for example, they're telling you it's only JPEG, it's only GIF, it's only like a specific thing, you can oftentimes just intercept it. Even though, let's say they're saying it's a, what's it called? Yeah, a GIF, you can just put your, go here, you go to, I don't know. Oh, I was already on one. We go here, reverse, and OS, let's go to all. It's already there, so why would I try to look for it a little bit further? Pen Test Monkey, where is it? Pen Test Monkey. So you see that's the Perl one. I don't want Perl. PHP. Okay, so that's one you can they don't have the actual Pen Test Monkey file. Is that the one? No, it's a little bit different. Yeah, it's different. So let me go get the Pen Test Monkey file. Pen Test Monkey PHP, probably. Oh, yeah, I'm using this. Advance. Let's write it again. Oh, yeah, my bad. Forget about that once in a while. Pen Test Monkey PHP. We can go over here, and then now we should have the reverse file that's right there, right? So similar thing that I showed you earlier. We take the raw, we're gonna go there, and then we can even just copy the whole thing here, right? Copy that, and then we could come over here. Then after that, let's do our little thing, HTTP. This intercept is on. Let's do submit. Submit. There we go. But I forgot to enable this, so that's why it's not working. So HTTP. Yeah. Okay. So that should work. Submit. Okay. So now, then what I can do is I can go here. I could just change the URL depending on whatever the case may be, right? I could start changing this and say the payload, what I want, right? At this point is basically this. So now when I submit it, if it's doing, let's say, an upload, in this case, it would actually work. Obviously, we need to change the IP address that's here, right? So I would have to put den.10.15.101, and then I know what my port is 1234, right? So then I would need like an account listener on that specific port, and then figure it out and make sure everything is fine. So now that being said, what's the correct answer?
Well,
what's the answer you wanted?
I would say probably more on the server side and or WAF.
Yeah, so WAF is a very, very good answer. Server as well is very good because obviously you need to do that. The biggest issue, I'd say for me, for my example, like my experience, is like if you have it on the server in this case, and you have a bunch of different requests that goes there, you may crash your server, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what's the hardest part of being able to manage is going to be the server, right? If the appliance is overloaded in this case, you could basically ask for a period block at one point on those specific IPs that are asking for too many, or if they're trying to go through it with a specific signature. Obviously, if it's a signature that goes through, well, at least you have the server side that would start sanitizing it. So if you can, as much as possible, you're trying to do these things to protect yourself as much as possible. So, I mean,
and blocking it before it can get in is, and especially if you know that, like, you can set a threshold for, I know this server in particular will die, then you can at least block that traffic from potential denial of service as well.
Exactly. Because you're looking for, as you're trying to go through the whole thing, like you're trying to set up all your stuff in place, like your server, your WAF, whatever, like your application. You need to think about the CIA triad, right? So you're not going to be able to block everyone. So availability needs to be there, but you cannot just use availability in there, because confidentiality and then integrity will be affected too. So all these things are like very much going to be affecting you in the long run. So that's why you have to be able to have a happy balance and go from there. So that's some of the stuff that I think are extremely important. So,
and that balance, that CIA balance, is in a enterprise environment, there will be different champions for each of those. Someone really wants confidentiality. They don't care as much about availability until something happens. Then they're like, oh no, availability, why did it go down? And then you'll have people who are just like, I just want it always on, and give me that. And then you have to try and figure out that confidentiality and the integrity to make sure that there's nobody intercepting.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different things that you have to be mindful whenever you're trying to do that security. So I hope you guys at least learn learn something out of that, right? Because obviously there's so much more that we could try to unpack in this case. So one of the things that I really like, I didn't know, Steve, when I was looking at your presentation, you talked about the token for engines, right? And then the nmap, the difference between the two. That's something I didn't know, right? And that's great to be able to identify these things, because if you're able to limit the amount of information the attacker is able to get through an nmap scan, and nmap, by the way, is all free, right? So it's easy enough. It's installed by default on most computers. Let me reframe this. Not most computers, but on most, let's say, Kali machine, or even Parrot, the one we're using for Hack the Box, right? All these ones already have it in there. And if you want it yourself, you could even download it, right? And then install it. Wouldn't be an issue at all. So it's extremely easy to be able to acquire and do the nmap scan. The other thing too, you have Shodan.io that you could also go take a look. So if these guys are scanning your actual server and then you have all that stuff, whatever Steve showed you there will limit the amount of information that people will be able to gather on the OSINT perspective, right? So that's another thing too to be able to defend yourself in here. So yeah, that's good. Anything else you'd like to add? I'm going to check in the meantime for comments if there's anything else or questions.
Really, the only thing I can say is that the situation will change. If you're under attack, you're under attack. It might be known attacks. It might be, someone's figured something out that's new, or it's just a matter of constantly, I guess, upgrading your skill set, your knowledge, staying up to date, and remembering that Burp Suite trumps browser security all day. So
yeah, it is what it is. But I'm showing you one tool there. There's multiple different ones that could have been used, and sometimes maybe even this would have not worked, right? So, so I mean, that's what it is. Oh, I had something else I wanted to say. I can't remember. Yeah. No, I don't remember at all. But yeah, so it's insane the amount of things that can be done on the blue side and needs to be done on the blue side to be able to make it work. Oh yeah, I just got what I remembered. So in the case that you have the defense in depth in place, right? We got John that told us that it was the right way, and then I saw Alex as well saying the same thing too. Probably being more John, maybe. I don't know. Probably everybody in here in the audience, of all the people that we have, probably said, yes, defensive depth is the way to go. So now we said that we put in place client-side defense, like sanitization. We have a WAF that's there to be able to block the web application attacks that's happening. And then we have also a server-side sanitization. What's the, like, is there anything else that we need to do, or we're covering all our angles here? Is there anybody that knows if we're actually secure in this place? The answer should be very easy. Like, I mean, I'm letting you think about it a little bit, but logging, yes, logging. If we explain a little bit more, what logging would entail, Steve?
Yeah. Essentially, logging gets you a plethora of data, and there are so many applications or even grep and common sense that can enable you to kind of find that needle in the haystack, to find that that reverse shell, that's encoded and embedded in an HTTP request. Your web server will log by default somewhere. It's just a matter of, I have seen very few organizations outside of like web hosts that actually pay attention to that kind of stuff. They look at everything from the IP level. You might get something with your application aware firewalls that helps you determine, okay, this is an attack. But if you're not logging, you're blind, right? And oftentimes logging is expensive, so scope gets cut. But when you think about every time a packet goes through a firewall, should be logged. And I wouldn't have always said that, but now that data is a lot cheaper, or storage is a lot cheaper, and data is gold, as many logs as you can get will help you identify, okay, this is a normal day, and then all of a sudden, oh, something happened. And that gives you, in the hunting world, a lead where you can start diving in and saying, okay, it looks like, sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments too. It looks like something weird has happened. Now, what does that look like, and which systems do we need to analyze, etc. And then, Alexandre, incident response plan, to help you figure out, once you see that threat in your logs, now you have a place to start, and you're going to be gathering even more of those logs to help identify, attacker, target, TTPs, geolocation. Logs are everything. Essentially, logs are the lifeblood of the blue team, or the bread and butter, as Alexandre has said.
yeah, exactly. So the logs are there, and the thing is, I'm going to show you real quick. It's there. As you can see, you have the machine that we were actually attacking, right? Under var logs, right over here, we can take a look at all the machines. So I'm showing you this. I got Steve that talked about the reason why we're logging, but also on the red team, why logging. Let's say you're into a place where you're attacking a machine, and where attackers can actually have an impact onto your stuff, depending on how you set up your stuff. But obviously, let's say if I would go into some of those logs over here, I would most likely find exactly what I've done throughout the whole event, right? So if it's done properly, I should be able to retrieve what happened in the past from what I've done. So that's one thing. Second thing, you have rsyslog that should be also enabled, or any other type of software in here that can be, I don't know if it's enabled in here. So in etc, or at least if it's there, and then we got rsyslog. .conf should be there. Yeah. I need to. It's not CD. Yeah. It's a rookie mistake again. This is gonna happen all the time. Henry. I need his password. Where's his password? Oh, maybe I'm not gonna be able to do it because I'm root. I'm not root.
Oh, right. He only has access to one.
Yeah, I might have to do that. Might have to hack myself, but you're not allowed. Can I? Is it still there? Either way, Yeah, I'm not going to go in there because we have 5 minutes left. So basically, maybe that's a session next time we can actually talk about logging in Windows a little bit,
Hmm.
maybe also into Linux, and give you some sort of like a crash course of where the attacker can go. And you as an attacker, whenever you go there, what can you do to try to prevent or erase your traces, right? So that's
Yeah.
a way to able to approach that on both sides of it. If you're on the blue side, you should have near real-time transfer of logs going through either the WEC, the Windows Event Collector, and then after that, most likely going to one of your SIEM or any other technology you do. You have to be able to retrieve if it's an agent or something like that that picks up the logs from your machine. So it's
Yeah.
all stuff like that that needs to be accounted for. And for you as an attacker, you have to be mindful of, okay, what's there, right? I'm into an engagement. I don't want to be caught. So what can I do to be able to avoid being caught? If I get into this machine, obviously I can delete the logs in there, but then what's next, right? Is the blue team with their SIEM are going to be able to have an alert and then detect and tell, like, figure it out that I'm there? It's possible. It's hard to tell, but it's possible. You have to think about it, right? You might find like a Windows 2000 machine, a Windows XP machine, and you're like, oh, okay, so they're not updating their network, so I might just like hack into this one. It's going to give me maybe a little bit of information, and I can go somewhere else afterwards without being caught. So either way, multiple things on the red team as well to think about and understand. So if you understand how the blue team thinks from the red team, you understand how the blue team thinks, you might be able to understand what they're trying to achieve and how good they are, where's the maturity level is. So the answer I was looking for earlier, and I think Alexandre said it, it's the incident response plan. If you're not able to, well, if you're protecting yourself as much as possible with the three things we discussed about, right, you have to figure out a way to be able to respond to the incident. So logging was extremely important. I think Steve elaborated quite well on this. And then the next factor would be to have your plan ready to go, right? So if you don't have any response plan in place, that doesn't work. If you have one and you never tested it, you don't have one, right? Even though it's on paper, you basically don't have one because you never tested it. You never figured out if it was good, actually, because you're going to realize, you might think, okay, I spent like, I don't know, like a couple months trying to write it down, and ultimately it did not work. A couple months to write it down, and ultimately whenever you test it, you realize there's a bunch of little kinks here and there that needs to be straightened up, and you realize that, oh, this section was supposed to take care of that. They don't have the capability. It's this section instead, right? So if you are able to understand all these things and you practice those stuff, you're going to be able to understand that, okay, so I need to do X, Y, and Z to be able to be successful in my incident response plan. So very, very important. Maybe that's something eventually we can start taking a look at, and then educate our user on, well, not users, but on what's going on. So all right, so I got a question here before we leave. When's the next session? That's something Steve and I are going to sit down this week and try to figure it out, because we understand that there is the holidays coming up very soon, right? So that's something we want to be respectful. We want to do a one that's going to have like during the Christmas time for people that don't know what else to do. We might, I don't know. That's a discussion we're going to have. But feel free, if you think you could attend the Christmas one, just like drop down a note into the comments on Discord or something like that, then we can try to figure something out. But obviously, probably Monday, we're going to try to come up with a date. That sounds fair, Steve?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, sounds good. So we have 1 minute. Do you have any departing words of wisdom, bold stuff that you'd like to mention, Steve?
Not really. Just thanks everyone for coming out and for sticking with us for the whole period. I'm hoping to learn a lot more still, and teach as much as I can, and just really excited that we got this going. So thanks so much for including me.
You're part of the team. We're all together in this. So thank you very much for being here. And again, special thank you to John Moore, Red Sisu, Mefixto, that are working in the back end to be able to make this thing possible. And then hopefully you guys learn a lot, and we see you again in the next session, sometimes hopefully in December. But stay tuned for that on Discord and also the meetup.com platform. So thank you again. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.